Welcome, PCS viewers. I'm here with Melanie Bemis from Wood River Middle School. Thank you, Melanie. It's so good to have you here as my colleague and my friend and my collaborator. And I'm so glad to kind of share even more of your thinking behind the scenes and what we were able to do together.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Erika.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about your background for our viewers, because we did collaborate together in the original Drone Designers pilot.
Mm-hmm. My background is as biology and chemistry teacher. That's what I started doing when I started my teaching career. And then I've taught English abroad. I lived in Japan for a while and got to live there for 3 years and teach at various elementary schools and private tutors, people in English. And then when I came back to the United States, I became a life science teacher until I moved out to the Wood River Valley. And then I was home with my kids for a while and just coaching track and field on the side. And it was 2012 when I got the current job that I am in, which is my favorite teaching job ever. It says the Gifted and Talented Facilitator here at Wood River Middle School. And I work with 6th through 8th graders who are identified in the Gifted and Talented program by teaching elective courses designed to meet their learning needs. So I've been doing that, as I said, since 2012. I got my master's degree in gifted education through Arkansas State University in Jonesboro, doing that fully online while I was still teaching. And that degree was in gifted and talented education.
It was funny. I was so nervous but excited when you offered up your students to me, and that also, meant a lot that you would be willing to, to trust me with your students and with your course and your time. So I don't know what was kind of going through your mind.
Well, I have a lot of freedom with my classes. That's one really cool part of my job, is that I design my classes around the needs of my students. And as you said, anyone can sign up for leadership. Anyone really can sign up for my GATE electives. Oh. They're simply designed to meet the needs of gifted and talented. So there's a faster pacing. I am an elective course in technology, so I always want to bring in technology as much as I can, along with serving the needs of the students for that class. So leadership, obviously we focus on building leadership skills, and we do a lot of projects for the school and the community. And we were going to be putting on a dance at Christmas time. And we usually have some special theme or something that the dance meets. And we had not decided on any of that yet. I just knew we were going to be having a Christmas dance. And so when you talked about your class and the performance aspect of the drones, and I looked at some of the videos of drones performing, I'm like, oh, this is cool. We'll do a drone performance for the dance. That'll be like our halftime show for the dance. And then Erika can get her unit piloted, and it will be really fun to work with Erika again because,
What was kind of your initial impression, or even when maybe you saw the sparked video for the first time?
The sparked video is super cool. It's one of those things where when you're working with middle school students and high school students, and especially elementary kids, you can always dream a lot bigger than you're capable of. So it was really cool to see what the professionals can do with it.
Yeah.
My initial impression of the curriculum was that it was just super cool to be following the careers involved with it and having the lessons basically centered around what the people in that field do on kind of a day-to-day basis. So our school district for a while was pushing disciplinary literacy, which is understanding a discipline and doing the work of people in that discipline as far as mirroring them and learning. Like if you're doing disciplinary literacy and science, you are conducting experiments. You're not just going through a lab. You would pose the questions, you would set up the experiment and design it. You'd go through that whole process as if you were a scientist.
For those of you tuning in, if you haven't gotten to see the designer's notebook yet, we are aligning, what the world's first drone costume designer, Leah Perrier, is doing. They're getting to see her sketches and how she maps out her concepts for the performances. Kind of tell me more of your impressions of how the students were reacting, or even that first day that we got to do that drone interaction, the land in your hand.
The first day was, I don't want to say it was a mess, but you need to test your drones, we learned, before you have the students, and update all of the firmware and everything. So you test to make sure the drones can connect, because we had some groups that were like connecting and the drone was landing in their hands and all the groups were super excited and they'd exchange roles and run it again. And then you had these other groups looking at them with jealousy. For the groups that were able to connect, it was super exciting for them to just get it to launch and land in their hand. And that's one thing I like about the coding aspect of it, is that I like that you're coding a physical object that you can like touch and see and watch immediately what your programming does. I know that, a lot of programming done on a screen and you see it on the screen. I just like that hands-on part of it.
I don't know, tell me more about kind of how you felt about the student experience.
The team development aspect of it, I think, is really important, especially so they have very clearly defined roles. I knew that would be important going into it, because I've just found with my leadership students, more often or not, 4 and 5 is a huge crowd. Yeah. And it makes it hard for teams to function well without really explicit teaching on what the different jobs are. And I felt like that was super important to have those cards that also detailed what their roles are, so that they could always just be looking and referring.
Yeah, their lanyards that they wear.
Exactly. But a lot of what I do in leadership is trying to help the kids learn leadership skills, and how to work with a team and manage a team is super important, and is a really important leadership skill for them. And always emphasizing that everyone needs a job and a role in their group, and it needs to be really clearly defined. So having those built in was really helpful in making sure all the kids do have a specific role and responsibility. You always do have to keep reminding them, if they are just kind of sitting off to the side, they're not doing their role, and you do have to remind them sometimes. And it helps people also to not just take over the whole thing.
I don't know, tell me kind of some favorite parts of the experience with the kids.
A cool moment for me was when we were, can't remember the program we were doing. Everybody had the same program, and it was probably the day we were testing battery limits with like how, with
that was a big day.
How long can it do this program mission? And we decided that, I think that was the day where we decided to have everybody launch the mission at the same time as well. Just start practicing synchronized launching. So it was really cool the first time we did that, and just all the drones went up all at the same time. And
yeah, I remember the hum, and everyone was kind of surprised.
Yes. Like, and everyone was
like Fantasia live.
Yeah, they actually, for the first time practicing that one ever, they did really good. I think the drones synchronized better that day than the day of the show, sadly. Yeah. But that was cool. They really enjoyed when they got to just freelance program things and try out the different costumes. I think it was, even though it was messy, they, I think, secretly liked the fringes being sucked into the drone and chopped into like thousands of pieces.
We lovingly called it confetti.
Yes. Um,
They like it.
they liked it. And no, I think just the time where we got to go down to the cafeteria and they got to test out their costumes and they release that creative side. I think that was really enjoyable for them. Yeah. Another one that surprised me was the day where they learned about how choreographers work and the musicians, that some of them have, what is that condition called?
Synesthesia.
Yes, synesthesia. So I was very skeptical about that lesson, as you probably remember.
Yes,
and I wanted to cut out that part, and you're like, wait, if I cut that out, there's nothing left for the lesson.
Yeah. So to give kind of our viewers some background, there's a portion, I really tried hard to scaffold it so that you could go from, a kid, a teacher, anyone would feel confident with this process. So, you listen to the song, you interpret it with color and line. I mean, you move your pencil or colored pencil any way that you want, that you feel captures the feeling. If it's upbeat, is it kind of staccato, quick lines? If it's, slower, more melodic, are you having these long curvy lines? But getting them to interpret music, and then you'll see within the curriculum, it's fun. They choose portions or lines that they think is interesting, and we kind of reveal that represents the drone's movement, and then they put them in order, which becomes a dance phrase or their first pieces of choreography.
I think that was actually one of the more interesting lessons, because it's not something you really hear about much.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting for them to learn about that. And then that was another one where I think it challenged them in ways they're not used to, which can be uncomfortable. We gave them the option to, as we were listening to the music, drawing what they were feeling, or they could get up and dance. And I actually have quite a few people in dance classes, but what surprised me was when the group of football boys all got up to dance out what they were feeling and then go like put it down on the paper afterwards. I think it was sort of silly for them, and yet they were also actually getting moves out of it that they would want to see the drones do. So that one was interesting to me, because I know at that age I would never get up and dance.
I'm so glad you brought it up, because I think that ended up being one of the most rewarding days.
It was, and it was a really effective scaffolding process to get the kids from the music to drone movements to then coding it. I liked it too, the fact that the kids could then look at each other's drawings and I told them that they needed to take a piece of movement from each person's desired choreography to put it all together as a team, so everybody had a voice into that process. Yeah. And it made it really simple for them to do that, because they could actually look at each person's drawing as a group and look at them all and identify, oh, look, we all had this here. Yeah. They could look at what they had in common and make some creative decisions as a group that I thought made it a lot easier. It's like I said, it scaffolded it very well to have that process be very smooth. And it was a process I thought would be a challenging, complex one, but it actually made it really.
What made you decide that you wanted to pursue this as an elective course? Because you have your materials, you participated in a grant with our state through the Idaho STEM Action Center, as well as working with me on this. But what made you want to kind of continue to extend on the program?
I see potential with it. Like, one, I love the kids getting to interact with the robot and have a lot of creative license with it. GATE program here in Blaine County School District has moved to identifying not just intellectual and academically gifted students, but also has expanded that into looking at kids in the visual arts, creativity, and leadership, like formally identifying students in all of those categories. And then obviously serving them in those categories as well. So if I can have a class that can serve more than one of those categories at a time, to me, that's pretty cool. And so it's a class where I could easily see bringing in more rigor, more content with science and math into it, while also having a lot of opportunity for kids with their creativity to push that and develop it, and the performance aspect of it.
Because we've actually gotten a lot of questions from educators. What is the process like in your school district for requesting the formation of a new elective course?
A new course has to be approved by the Board of Education. So I just came up with a title for the course, which my students gave input on, and we just call it dronology. So I just came up with that course title and did a description, a brief description that would appear in the course catalog when kids are choosing a course. And then the principal of our school actually has to present it to the Board of Education.
So the school board in your district or the Board of Education for the state of Idaho?
The school board at our district.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up for people.
Yeah. No, the principal just goes to the Board of Education at our school and proposes, like, presents on what the proposal is, and then they ask him questions.
Tell us what it was like when your principal came to you to kind of prep fielding these questions.
So he just came to my room to learn more about the course and what kind of things we would do in the course, so that he could answer the board's questions that he might anticipate they would answer. So he wanted to know if we had all the materials for it, because obviously getting drones is expensive, and a Board of Education feeling like they need to finance that kind of program is going to be a concern. And so I'd already gotten the grant for drone designers, so I had a set of, I believe you get 6 drones. So I had the materials for that portion of it.
The paper, everything you need.
Right, and you already have what you need for coding.
Have
the drones for learning about physics and things like that. So I let him know that I'd already written a grant and already had all the drones.
And they're compatible with Chromebooks. You already had your Chromebooks.
Yes, and because I was smart enough to write my grant, including our tech person in charge of the district technology, he got me set up with smartphones that have been donated to the school district. That aren't phones, but you have that computer. So I have a smartphone that's paired with every drone.
That's great. I'm so glad that. I think that's a great tip. And we put that in the curriculum as part of the educator prep. But I think that that's a great recommendation and reminder again from Melanie, coordinate, work with your district technology people, bring them into the classroom, have them there as an extra hand on really key days, but have them be a part of the support. So how long did it take for them to get back to you? Did they decide that night, or how did that work?
So the principal got all prepped. He was the first year principal and hadn't gone through the process before, so he really over prepared. And I've talked a lot about how much I really love the disciplinary literacy aspect of it, because I don't know how many teachers really understand how important the middle years are for kids, setting them up for really diving deeply into a subject later on. But The middle school years are when you try and help kids fall in love with a subject area. It's like a big piece to creativity, and getting really, really good at something is falling in love with it. And so I thought, like they really have to role play and do things like a scientist would, like a mathematician would. And we don't do that a lot in school in the United States at all. But it's actually the piece that's needed to help kids fall in love with a discipline area enough that when that rigorous hard work has to be put in, that love they have for it and the passion and vision they have later of wanting to do that later on.
Oh yeah.
Through that. Because a lot of kids, you know, we can say, oh, just you need grit, have a growth mindset, push through it and work hard. But without having connections to what am I going to do with this? What could I do with this later on? We miss a huge piece that's motivational for the kids. And I just think there's a lot less career education in the United States than we really need to have. You had questions about the funding and the ongoing expenses of it, making sure that it's something the district can cover, my classroom funds can cover. And
you even applied for a follow-up grant through the STEM Action
Center. And so I went through and looked. I wanted the teledrones that actually sync.
Yeah, the teledrones.
So I wrote that in for my grant, is to get 6 of those. And I'm like, I just went and looked for the cages on my own. I put in for the refill kit for the drone designers to get all the paper and the metallic paper, all that stuff again. I looked for some different cages, thinking that it would be nice for the kids to have a variety of different cages for decorating the drones.
Yeah, I was so glad that you had applied for that, because then it gave you more flexibility, and then you see that the state is supporting your existing program and you just get to expand on it.
Yeah, so there's a lot you can do with the synchronized drones. I'm excited to get mine whenever I do.
Yeah, well, I think it really proves that, you know, put your hat in the ring. I don't know if you could, there was one thing I really loved during the pilot, that you were talking about entry points for your students. Yes. And to me, that was so powerful. And I think that really hits on the disciplinary literacy and really building that love and interest, and even finding, you know, kind of surprise talents or things that kids want to pursue. So tell me about kind of what you discovered with those entry points for students in the program.
Well, that was something I really loved about the design of it, is because one, leadership classes at my school tend to be very female heavy.
Oh.
And when you have a robotics class, and this is a problem I have to solve, is that mainly boys have signed up for droneology, so I've got to figure out how to get girls into that. But leadership, it's very girl heavy. So I felt like it was a great opportunity to get girls more into hands-on technology and robotics, which was another cool thing about bringing it into my leadership class as being part of the dance, because they're super excited about the dance and putting a dance on for the school. And I think that the drone performance, tying it into that, made it so they had their real life audience they were going to have. And that with the focus on robotics, but art and performance and music, like everybody in that class had a way to connect with the drone and the curriculum in an area that was a strength for them.
Yeah, because I really loved that there were some, there were some strengths that some kids had. You know, maybe they liked to sketch, and so they felt excited and confident about starting some of the drone costume designs or even doing the musical interpretation sketches.
Yes.
But then as a surprise, then it was cool to talk to some students. And I even remember one female student, she was saying, well, I'm surprised that I'm into the coding, but I really like music. I like dance. I like to sketch. And then she ended up being the programmer for the group. So to me, that was one of my most favorite parts, that they felt supported, they could explore, they could see if something was for them or not, and then decide on what they wanted to do. And I think that by, when we had to finalize roles, I think people were pretty happy with how it ended up.
I think so too. I think, like, based off of the post survey results that we did and my observations of students, I think I had 26 kids in that class, there were really only one or two of them that were not highly engaged by the project. A lot of them really, really enjoyed it and had fun.
Well, to kind of bring things to a close, what kind of plans do you have for the dronology course, kind of combining drone designers with coding with drones?
I've been doing a physics course, so I really want to be able to pull in as many physics concepts as I can into it, so that it just gives the kids a little bit more of a basis going into physical science and some of the harder science classes. They're a little bit more prepared for that, and bring in more of the 3D, XYZ axis. I want to pull in a lot more of that for their coding, with them making a fully synchronized performance. So I think what I'm going to do this next time is that in their small group, they code their drone to do a performance to music. And then they get to fully synchronize a drone performance with the, as many, like, I'll have 12 drones at that point that can all fly, 6 of which will be able to be synchronous, and the other 6 could be synchronous from sharing the code that they do and hand launching them. So I'm excited to kind of do a bigger challenge, the kids to do a bigger synchronous performance.
Oh my gosh, you're really upping the ante with 12 drones?
That's how many are possible that they can do it with.
I bet you'll do it.
But also, I'm gonna get some other drones. So I found a cool little drone where they, the circuits for it are drawn in with a silver pen that's a conducting pen.
Oh, wow.
And so they can actually cut out what the shape of the drone will be and put the propellers on it.
Oh, wow.
And connect the circuits so that they have more freedom in the shape of the drone and the size of the drone. So I'm excited for them to play around with that. When you look at Leah's work and you see her like bird drones and the other drones she's done, I'm like, I think that they would have a little bit of freedom.
Yeah.
Kit to actually, they can make the frame of the drone out of cardboard
and
other construction materials and draw on the circuits. I also have a lot of wire that they can build the circuits with, but we'll do some work with circuits and electricity.
Oh my gosh, so you'll be kind of diving more, even looking at the term drone designers.
Yes, so I heard
they report back on this for sure.
I can't remember who, I heard it from a parent of one of the kids that was gonna sign up for the class, and they were disappointed that there wouldn't be drone building in it. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to disappoint kids signing up for this class, so let me figure out what we can do, because I haven't found a kit where we can build the whole drone from scratch, and they're not going to be able to do a circuit board and things like that. So I found a couple little kits where they can at least learn how the electric circuits work and how the motors work and they can set that up and to really understand what enables the drones to fly. And then they'll have a little bit more creative freedom in drone performances to bring in their own things with that as well.
Wow.
So
I'm
I
really
would
excited
love,
to see where it goes.
I would love to see them be able to like do their own characters and do like a drama performance with it.
Yeah, I remember in our state training with the STEM Action Center, some of the teachers were wanting to like reenact a book, like characters from a book or a play, and use the drones, you know, as characters in that respect.
Yeah, so I want to bring in not just performing arts that way with the dance choreography aspect, but also like a drama aspect of it as well. But I want to lay a really strong foundation for them to understand the science behind drones and flight, and then get a better sense of coding. I'm also going to be doing some obstacle courses where they're flying the drones by hand and they have to do some challenges. Those are some of the things I want to do. I suspect that will fill the time.
It's a big list.
So I'm like, okay, I don't need to add anything to my list. I just need to get the flow of it set up and keep that focus on disciplinary literacy in there, and like focusing on the work of the scientist and the work of the engineer and those things. So there's a good career focus with it as well.
Yeah. No, well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on, you know, how the pilot went and how you are kind of parlaying this into an even more developed course. If you could give teachers that are watching, educators in any context, any advice about starting their own drone designers program, you know, if they're thinking about purchasing the curriculum and kit, or they already have it, you know, what is your kind of best advice going into it?
Preparation. Like, you really need to fly the drone yourself, test the drone yourself. I had to take that drone home and learn how it worked and how it oriented itself. Like, after every line of code it's flown, how's it now oriented on the XYZ axis? So I tried to get to know the drone as much as I could. The best preparation is going through it yourself to make sure you really understand it well, and not being worried when things don't work out.
What about kind of taking risks?
Oh, it's a risk.
Yeah.
I've done that a lot with my job though, so I'm kind of accustomed to it now. But I know when and the nice thing about this is the lessons are so planned out for you.
Yeah.
Like, really, the lesson plans are some of the most detailed lesson plans I've ever seen. And so
I hoped it would help people.
Yes, you follow the lesson plan, you will be fine. Just read it all in advance so you're prepared for it. But the program totally holds your hand through everything so that anyone can do it. And then how far you want to go with it is just how excited you get by it. There's a lot of opportunities for simplifying things or going deeper. Every single lesson has extensions you can do. So based off of student background, like, I'll have some kids possibly who will have done this program in elementary school. So I will, I'll have to do some differentiating and have a group who already experienced it, giving them even more challenge with it.
No, thank you for being part of this whole project. And, Melanie is helping us out with continuing to develop training for teachers. So I'm really excited that this collaboration can continue. You've been watching an interview with Melanie Bemis, the leadership and gate coordinator at Wood River Middle School in Haley, Idaho. My friend, my collaborator, and just a talented educator all around. And so thank you for working with me on drone designers.
Thank you. I love your project. And it's always fun to work with you. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm.